I'll let you give out a real, quote unquote, real prop pick, and then I'll do something silly. So I'll let you start. You tell me what you like from a prop angle, and then I'll have a little something else. And of course, these numbers or lines are things that you might have to deep dive a little to find where these lines are at, because they might not be, yeah. Anyways, if you know, we'll say that. Yeah. If we'll say that. But let's start here.
Wait.
I want to start. Can I start somewhere kind of obvious here?
Yeah, let's go.
And ask you a question. I want to say Super Bowl MVP. Can we start there? Who is your angle here for Super Bowl MVP? Is it as simple as just taking Matt Stafford because we think the Rams are going to win?
Well, I think the interesting thing in this MVP market is, normally it's like, okay, what's the money line? And then like add 10, 15, 20 cents for the quarterback, right? Because it's just, if the quarterback does well, the team does well, they're going to win, and vice versa. If you're going to win, that means the quarterback did well oftentimes, right? That's the first place you look for an MVP. Now, that doesn't happen as much as we tend to think that it does. But the interesting thing here with Matthew Stafford is there's this pretty wide gap between his odds and the money line. Right? Like he is plus whatever. And the thing is, like, normally you'd be like, okay, man, I'm getting such a great deal here on the quarterback of the theoretically winning team. To me, I sort of look at it the opposite way. I go, man, there's a lot of probability in there built in for someone other than Matthew Stafford to win the MVP. And I think it starts with Cooper Kupp at plus 600. Like, think about it this way. This is a narrative award, right? This is an award that we've been talking about from an MVP standpoint, from a regular season, what's all transpired here. And it's like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and then like, well, should it be Jonathan Taylor or Cooper Kupp? And people are like, no, like we can't possibly give it to somebody who isn't a quarterback, right? And I think you'll find maybe by the time you listen to this podcast that a quarterback does, in fact, win the NFL regular season MVP. But what's happened since then, right? It's Aaron Rodgers out in the first round, Tom Brady out in the second round. And you go, oh, well, Cooper Kupp's the last man standing. Maybe we should have given Cooper Kupp the MVP. Like, that's how people's brains work, is if somehow you win 3 playoff games, you then all of a sudden should have won the regular season MVP. Well, you don't get a chance to rectify that from a regular season standpoint. But if you feel that way, you do get a chance to rectify it this coming Sunday. So if Cooper Kupp has that game, right? And we've seen wide receivers win the MVP before. Usually it takes about 130 receiving yards and a touchdown or 2, depending on the game script, right? We saw Julian Edelman win one where he didn't even have to score a touchdown because basically no touchdowns were scored in that game. And so I just look at it and I go, listen, Cooper Kupp's going to get a touchdown. He is lined in a way at between minus 170 and minus 200 to score a touchdown. And that shouldn't come as a surprise. He can score from deep. He can score from in close. So I just look at that and I go, okay, Cooper Kupp at plus 600, that's an inference that he's only going to win this 15% of the time. I think the number's higher. I just do maybe Matthew Stafford has a 300-yard game. I don't see that being the case. I think the rushing is going to get split at least a 75-25 level. And who knows sort of how explosive any of those runs actually end up being. But I think Stafford is going to look to Kupp because that's what he does. And so he has the best chance to put up big numbers. He's already got the voters thinking of him as an MVP caliber player. And listen, it's not the greatest deal in the world at plus 600. We're not talking about a 20-to-1 shot or anything like that. Yeah. But at plus 600, listen, if that ends up cashing, like, you're going to be pretty content with that. And then other than that, I like to sort of cast a wide net. And so when I look at the Rams and I go, okay, if I don't think that Stafford's going to win the MVP, or at least I want to live in that probability in between him winning the MVP and then winning the game outright, I'm going to just sprinkle. It's going to be a sprinkle fest, like the cupcakes that I'm going to be diving into in the fourth quarter. Sprinkles everywhere on defensive players, right? You can have Jalen Ramsey for 100-to-1 right now. Leonard Floyd at 200-to-1 right now. Williams, Rapp, Weddle, Scott, Long, basically the entire Rams secondary, each at 100 to 200 to 300-to-1. Couple other guys, Greg Gaines, and who am I missing? Oh, Reeder, the linebacker for the Rams. So essentially everybody other than Von Miller, Aaron Donald, because Von Miller and Aaron Donald could win MVP, but they're priced in a way that says that they could win MVP, right? Like, and so I don't necessarily want to pay like a 12-to-1, a 15-to-1 for Aaron Donald, knowing that this is a guy who wrecks games but he does so somewhat in the shadows, right? Like he is the problem that everybody has to deal with when playing, but you can go an entire game without not, necessarily noticing Aaron Donald for more than one or two plays, but it doesn't mean he's not having a massive effect on the game, right? He's getting double, triple teamed and he's letting the other guys do stuff. It's the same thing. I look back to the Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl win over the Broncos, right? I had the same sort of strategy. I had Averill, who was just absolutely destroying the Broncos offensive line. And he was the guy who got his hand on Peyton Manning's pass where, anonymous linebacker ends up catching that interception and running it for a touchdown. And so anonymous linebacker, gets, wasn't even Wagner, wasn't I'm forgetting the other gentleman's name. But he's able to run the ball in for the touchdown. And you're going, okay, all you need is basically to do one other thing, whether that's a sack or a fumble recovery. The ball just needs to find you in the Super Bowl, right? We had that with Larry Brown, Dexter Jackson. It's basically a once every 10-year type of a thing. And so if the Rams are going to get this pressure that we all think that they're going to get against Joe Burrow, and maybe it's short, quick, predictable passes, maybe there's some deflections. If a ball gets deflected at the defensive line and goes into the hand of, let's just say, Taylor Rapp, and he runs it back for a touchdown, do you think the guy who deflected it is going to get MVP, or do you think Taylor Rapp is going to get MVP, right? And so I just kind of want to use a little bit of capital to sort of spread it around with a sprinkle fest on the defensive side. So on the off chance that this game is really sort of slow, if it's a 13-3 like the last time the Rams played, or some of these other kind of boring games that we've seen in the Super Bowl, that maybe there's a defensive player who steps up, has the ball find them, and puts up some sort of score or scoreboard or stat sheet type stuffer type thing, where you just go, in one game, like, yeah, Greg Gaines might have a really nice game if he can get a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, maybe fall on a ball in the end zone, something along those lines. And at 200-1, all it takes is $1 or $2 on that quote unquote investment for you to be quite excited every time that guy or any one of these guys makes a play on Sunday.
All right, I like that. And it's interesting too, because it's exactly what we're talking about, right? If you're on the Rams, why are you on the Rams? Finding prop bets that fit into that narrative. I am going to now present to you something that does not fit into that narrative at all. And I'm going to start with the National Anthem.
Sure.
I'm not going to pretend to know who Mickey Guyton is. I'm not going to pretend to know who that is.
I was hoping you did, man, because I don't.
No.
I don't know who that is.
But I do know that the line in front of me says the National Anthem time at 1 minute and 40 seconds is the over-under number. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Now, the past 16 Super Bowls, there have been 9 unders, with Billy Joel being the low at 1 minute 30, and 7 overs. Alicia Keys was the high at 2 minutes and 35 seconds. Now, the average length of the past 16 Super Bowls is 2 minutes and basically 1 second, right?
Sure.
At the 2021 National Memorial Day concert, where she didn't realize Mickey Guyton was a she, kept a brisk pace of 1 minute 23. So will she take more time to savor the moment this time around? Yes or no? I say the obvious answer is always a yes. But that's a long time to go from 1 minute 23 to 1 minute 40. That's a long time to go.
Isn't this the art and science battle that we have, with society when it comes to handicapping, even just sporting events, right? Because the science and the handicap says, well, she does it actually very quickly. And okay, well, why would we try to predict something that she's, doesn't do, so to speak, right? And I'm sure she was nervous when she was, at whatever event that you just said there, or any other time that she's done it along the way, right? Once you feel pressure, once you are nervous, you are nervous. And so I would expect her to just kind of do it the way that you'd expect her to do.
Okay.
But the art element in all of this is, well, okay, she's on the stage. She gets to flaunt a little bit. She gets to strut her stuff vocally, if you will. Like, why wouldn't she take a little bit longer to sing the anthem? So listen, I mean, this is just decide what type of a person you are at this point, right? Are you a science person or are you an art person? I think that's going to guide your way when it comes to this handicap on the anthem.
All right. So obviously, as we zigzag through these props here, obviously the big thing to talk about in any big game is the quarterbacks. What do you got for us quarterback wise?
Yeah. So as we talked about, right, I think Burrow's going to have to throw the ball a lot. I think he's going to have to throw the ball short. Let's go over pass attempts, 36.5. It doesn't matter how good those pass attempts are, right? Are they completed? Are they not? Do they go for yardage? Doesn't really matter. 36.5 pass attempts. I think he's going to have to throw the ball 40 times in this game. Again, if he's throwing the ball quickly, that means the deep ball probably not going to be in the arsenal much for Burrow. Under 38.5 for his longest pass in this game. So again, I'm framing everything by get it out quick and try to get 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 yards at a time here. I think Burrow does have more passing yards than Stafford. If he's going to have a lot of volume, I'm not necessarily betting on him to not have success, as we talked about. I think he can have success. On the flip side, I think Stafford is going to have a comfortable game here. I don't think he's going to be able to get the large chunks of yardage based on the way that the Bengals play their safeties as far back in coverage as they do. And so I kind of look at it the opposite way. I think Burrow's going to throw the ball a lot. I think he's going to have more yardage than Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford's going to have a relatively easy time back there, not from a volume standpoint, but from how much he's going to have to do. So what does that mean? Well, it means the exact opposite, right? Stafford under 36.5 passing attempts. I think on his first pass, Matt Stafford over 10.5 yards completed. Think about it this way. If they throw the ball on, they get the ball to start the game. If they throw the ball on first down, that's going to be a scripted play from Sean McVay, right? That's something that they're going to have practiced all, for this 2 weeks. And it's going to probably, I think, be a pretty positive play. I don't think you script some sort of check down type play for Matthew Stafford as his first play. If they run the football, one of two things is going to happen. One, it's going to be a successful run. And that means either another first down and another first down situation for Matthew Stafford to throw and run that first play, or it means 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3, something along those lines, where Stafford's going to have an opportunity for a little play action pass, right? Be able to fake to the running back and hit a play over the middle potentially for, again, 11 plus yards. And if it's not a successful run play, now we're looking at 2nd and long. Maybe that's another run play. Either way, it's now going to create a necessity for Stafford to throw the ball a decent distance in order to get the first down, right? If it's 2nd and 10, you're going to need to get those 10 yards, obviously not necessarily on 2nd down in its entirety. The only way this doesn't work if that first play ends up being a check down, because if it's incomplete on 2nd and 10, even on 3rd and 10, you get another chance, right? Because it is the first completed pass. So first completed pass for Stafford over 10.5. To complete a pass, this is where you want to get a little silly, Shell. We can get a little silly. I think a third person completes a pass. I think a third person attempts a pass. I think that person might be Odell Beckham. We have seen him do that. That person might be Johnny Hecker, the Rams punter. Depends how spicy the Rams want to get. Maybe it's a person that I don't even know of at this point in time. But to complete a pass, you can get it for plus 250. To attempt a pass, you can get it for plus 150. Look at it this way. If it's Odell Beckham, you flip the ball to him, he's rolling. I think if he throws the football, it's because the player is wide open. This is the Super Bowl. Stop. You're not going to force a play here. If it's not there, Beckham's just going to run with it. Well, running with it doesn't do us any good because that's not a pass attempt. So I rather just kind of go for the gusto here for the plus 250, thinking that whomever is doing this sort of special play, this Philly special type of a play potentially, that they're going to be able to complete the pass because it's going to be an easy pass to complete just based on play design. So over 2.5 there. And again, as we mentioned, if you want to get intrepid as far as sacks are concerned, over 5.5 sacks, even money. You go, we're not getting any sort of deal here because normally the total sacks are 4.5. So they have already built in the knowledge that there's going to be pressure for both sides theoretically in this game. So if you want to go that way, just know that you are paying that extra full sack in this game, and maybe it doesn't really matter.
Okay. Well, something that does matter to, I'd say 60% of the people at your Super Bowl party where you're going to be watching is the halftime show. Here is the question. Who will be the first to speak, sing, or rap during the halftime show? We have Dr. Dre at plus 150, Snoop at plus 180, Eminem at plus 250, Mary J. Blige at plus 300, Kendrick Lamar at plus 350. I'm going to start here, and I will say that I feel like it has to be either Dr. Dre or Kendrick Lamar. Dr. Dre, because he's a headliner, so he'll start it, go away, let everyone else come out, then he'll close it. Or you start with the young buck, Kendrick comes out just to get the crowd really hype and go. Kendrick's got a bunch of different songs that could do that. That's where I'm leaning. A sleeper, Mary J. Okay. Mary J. Family Affair just seems like like a nice PG-13 party to get the whole thing started on a nice vibe. I could see some plus 300 Mary J. Bliges out there too.
I'll be looking for Family Affair to be the last song played, because I think that comes out when everybody's on stage, right? These things tend to gather as they go along here, right? And eventually we're going to get to a point where Eminem is just kind of sitting there, not really doing anything towards the end. And I say that because he's my answer as this sort of dark horse starting point. Look at it this way, right? What happens at halftime? The lights go down. The lights go down at halftime. Who is going to be the person that comes out of the shadows?
Okay.
I kind of think it's Eminem. And don't we have the Lose Yourself beat coming out of the shadows here potentially? I don't know. And again, this is no inside information. I'm sure, you'll look at the odds and you see California Love is the favorite, and that makes obviously a ton of sense. That would be I would make that the favorite a year ago, right? Like that doesn't take any sort of, whatever. I think that there's a potential for a little quick bar or two of Lose Yourself. And then we get into some other, because you look at it and you go, okay, who's the biggest act in all this? And like Dre is the headliner and he would be sort of our favorite potentially, but like people like Snoop, people like Eminem, that's what makes this so exciting, right? And so I just think this is sort of Eminem gets his shine here early on because he's not really going to do a ton of like interjecting midway through, right? And I get your point about Kendrick, like maybe Humble is a starting point there. I just think you go, okay, we have this many heavy hitters here. Let's just start with a guy who can sort of take it on his own. Like he almost doesn't need any sort of backup music, if you will, right? He can just sort of not freestyle it necessarily, but just almost like, hip hop, rap, or acapella it type of a thing here. And I think that's just the pump up song that gets things started. I think Family Affair comes in at the end, but obviously California Love is going to be the favorite and rightly so. But unfortunately, I think that just makes it unbettable until we get more information with regards to like rehearsals and stuff like that.
And along that line, California Love, in terms of the first song performed during the halftime show, California Love plus 250. The next episode plus 375. Family Affair plus 450. There's some interesting songs on this list. I mean, somehow Drop It Like It's Hot is plus 700. I'm like, I could kind of see that, but I don't know if they're going to play Drop It Like anyways. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
The sick part is there are so many good like beats that you can picture this thing starting with because of the catalog that these performers all have, that it's like, this is a really hard one to try to project.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, but we just talked about the quarterbacks. I feel like we've talked about the defenses. What about the running backs, receivers? Which way do you want to go here?
I mean, the answer is all of it, in the same way that when my editor said Super Bowl props this week, I said yes. And I didn't even, and it turned out that we were writing all of them. So let's start with, we did quarterbacks. Let's do wide receivers. So a couple of things here. Some of them, we have to have some long shots in there, right? Like that's part of the fun. First catch for either team, Tyler Higbee, 14-1. Now, again, this is a guy who's probably, down the board here because we're not positive that he's even going to play in this game, though I think that, hopefully he does. And if he doesn't, then it gets refunded and it's not that big of a deal. But if he does play, 42 of his 60 receptions this season have come in the first half. This is a guy they throw to early in games, even in your mind's eye from watching these playoff games. It's a lot of Higbee in the first half, Cup in the second half. So at 14-1, might as well try a shot there. Van Jefferson, I don't know that he's going to get over his game total of around 31.5 yards. I think he is the sort of distance player, right? And so I think his long catch of over 17.5 yards, maybe it's just one catch, but his longest catch of the day is going to be over 17.5 yards. Obviously, a ton of attention paid to the other guys. On the Bengals side of things, I'm playing the waiting game. This is the Devontae Adams system here. I'm fading Jamar Chase in this game. I think, look at it this way. Jalen Ramsey this season has moved around defensively more than ever any other time in his career. He has already said publicly in the 2 weeks leading up, he has said to the coaching staff, I want that matchup against Chase. And Chase, how good is Chase? Chase is so good, but a lot of it is, he's amazing for a rookie because he's able to frankly push off and get away with it, because a lot of the times that's 6'1", 200 pounds. He's stronger than the cornerback that he's going against. He's not stronger than Jalen Ramsey, who at 6'1", 200 pounds is every bit the size and certainly has potentially more man strength, if you will, than Jamar Chase does. So I'm going to wait and see, and hopefully this gets bet up even more. If it doesn't, under 79.5 receiving yards for Chase is fine by me. The ball has to go somewhere else. I think that ball goes to T. Higgins over 5.5 receptions. You're getting plus money on this, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me if I think that Burrow is going to have to throw the ball 40 times. And then this is a sneaky one. Samaje Perine over 8.5 receiving yards. This could happen on one play like it did against Kansas City, but this is a guy who basically doesn't get running back, like rushing carries. He has one carry all season long, or it's not all season long, but all playoff season long. And so he's on the field on third downs. He's on the field for passing downs. And a lot of people are sort of giving attention to Mixon as far as, he's going to be involved in the passing game. I think Perine's going to get a little bit more snaps. Usually it's about 25% of the snaps. I think he's going to get a few more snaps. And maybe this is one catch, maybe this is two. If you wanted to go the 2-catch route, that's certainly a way to play it. But if he gets 2 catches, I think he's going to get 9 yards. So I rather just go for the 9 yards element, and maybe he just gets that on one catch. And then the last one, right? I talked about the throwing, who's going to throw the football. Cincinnati rushing attempts. I'm going to try to get tricky here. I'm going to go under 3.5 with at plus 175. Now this is the key element here. If it's anything under plus 150, I wouldn't bet it. But now we're getting into the plus 175s at certain places. Under 3.5 people to attempt to rush. I think Joe Burrow is going to attempt to rush. I think Joe Mixon is going to attempt to rush. And now you need 2 more to have this bet lose. And the strange thing is, Jamar Chase is actually the next most likely guy to have a rushing attempt. He had 1 last week, he had 1 the week before, and he had 3 against the Raiders. So he's been in the playbook for a rushing attempt, which is obviously a little bit scary, and why this number is plus 175. But the tricky thing is, Perine has had 1 rushing attempt all playoff long, and that was against the Raiders. So the last 2 weeks, it's only been Burrow, and it's been Mixon, and it's been Chase, and that's it. So whether Chase gets a rushing attempt, I imagine he does, or Perine, you need both of those guys to get a rushing attempt here to lose this bet. Now, it might lose. It is not the favorite. That's why it's plus 175 out there. But again, we have to sort of juice some things up with some fun extracurriculars at plus money. I think that's one that is closer to 50-50, or at the very least, sort of 60-40 here. And we're getting a little bit better of a price than that in that one for Cincinnati Bengals rushers.
So you mentioned the Bengals, and obviously Bengals colors happen to be orange, which a bit of a coincidence. The color of Gatorade, which color will be poured on the coach? Orange or blue or green, yellow, line. I mean, orange is the odds-on favorite here at plus 200, followed by blue at plus 300. Now, here's a note. Yeah. Since 2001, orange has been dumped on the winning coach 5 times, the most of any color, with blue checking in 4th place with 3 showers, clear/water, and none. Both finished tied for 2nd at 4 apiece. So I don't know. I orange is the odds-on favorite. Just saying that, but I don't know.
Am I the only one who likes yellow Gatorade? Like, what happened to good old-fashioned yellow Gatorade, original Gatorade? What happened to that? No, I just come on, people. Yeah, okay, fine. Listen, I have no idea. I mean, it feels like the favorite in these. The favorite in these are probably a favorite for a reason, right? Like somebody, if you put a lineup, and listen, these are low limit type stuff. If you put a lineup, then you've probably done some research on this, right? I am old school.
How do you find the plug who makes the Gatorade, right? Find that guy.
That's right.
The guy and the dude
stirring away, right?
Well, the guy that mixes a Gatorade and the guy that carries the boombox for Deebo Samuel, 2 best jobs in sports.
Might be the same job. After he puts down the boombox, he picks up the giant spoon. Okay. Where's water? I mean, can we just throw water on a guy at this point?
Yeah.
Like
plus 450, clear water, plus 450.
I feel like if you just bet, clear/water every year, and if you're getting plus 450 every time, like that has to happen once every 4 years, and you would be profitable over your lifetime in betting the dousing prop. I don't know. Honestly, I don't think I've ever bet it in my life. I can't help it.
Fair enough. What's the next thing you got for me here? Give me some rapid fire. What do you got, man?
Yeah, let's get deep into the weeds here. Okay, so none of these sort of have any sort of correlation to anything other than obviously how I feel about the game, right? So I don't think there's going to be explosive plays, right? I mentioned why the Rams won't need to. I mentioned that the Bengals won't be able to. So under 42.5 yards for longest touchdown. Longest field goal, this is a weird one from a field goal standpoint. I'm going under 47.5 on longest field goal because you can get that at even money, because I'm not going to trust Matt Gay to kick a long field goal. And if it's only on the shoulders of Evan McPherson, I'm just mathematically, if only one guy can kick a 48+ yard field goal, I'm going to take the under. By the way, there's no guarantee that he even gets an opportunity to kick a 40 to 55, 56 yard field goal, right? It just, the game might work out that they just never have fourth down in that instance. The thing of it is, I actually like Cincinnati's kicker, McPherson, to kick the longer of the two field goals. So I want McPherson to kick a long field goal. I want him to kick one longer than Matt Gay. I just don't want him to do it over 47.5 yards, right? So essentially just math plays they might both win, but they also might not. And they are both at even money, Cincinnati to have the longest field goal. That one has never made any sense to me all week long. And I expect that to sort of even out a little bit here, because we have seen Matt Gay literally come up short on a 47-yard field goal this postseason. First touchdown, I'm going to try it at over 7.5 yards. I think both these quarterbacks trust their receivers in that mid-range. Why I don't think there will be one of 42.5, of over 42.5 yards. I think the first one, or sort of the majority of them, will sort of come from the edge of the red zone to the 10-yard line, something along those lines. I think the Rams are certainly capable of running one in as well against the Bengals. And Joe Mixon, frankly, has shown that he can run one from a little bit of distance, as he did against Tennessee. Fun one, 2-point conversion. This is sort of my same concept of my third person to throw a pass. Might even happen on the same play. I'm going yes for there to be a 2-point conversion converted. I think both these teams have the playbook to convert a 2-point conversion. We saw it with Cincinnati last week, lost in the shuffle of all the chaos. Is like their 2-point conversion play to Trent Taylor, who had one offensive snap all game, was immaculate. He was wide open. There was no chance of him not getting into the end zone for that 2-pointer. If there's a 2-point conversion attempt, I think it gets made at a higher percentage rate. That sort of suggests that these odds suggest, if you will. Some more random stuff here. Penalties, under 10.5 accepted penalties. Shell, do you know who our guy is who is refereeing this game? You know the name of the referee? Nobody does, right? This isn't the 2 or 3 or 7 guys that we all hate, but our guy here, Tolbert, is kind of an anonymous guy, because he's not out there throwing a ton of flags. His crew doesn't throw a ton of flags. In fact, they throw the third fewest flags in the season so far. Now, again, this is a Super Bowl crew. This is the best of the best. Best of the best to me in a season where, what have we done every Tuesday? Complain about the officiating. Every Friday, complain about the officiating from Thursday night. The NFL knows that. I'm pretty sure 1 or 2 people from the NFL offices are on Twitter. They know that the last thing that we want to see is a bunch of flags and a bunch of officiating nonsense. So they put a guy who doesn't throw many flags and a Super Bowl sort of top level crew here, and they tell them, just ease up on the flags. And that's what's happened in the last 2 rounds. Remember that first round where it was officiating chaos and the whistles were blowing and touchdowns were happening? Since then, no one's cracked 10 accepted penalties. No game has cracked 10 accepted penalties. And we're getting 10.5 here, and we're actually getting plus money on the under here. By the way, these 2 teams, the 3rd and 4th, I believe, basically 2 of the top 5 in avoiding penalties. They have not been called for a ton of penalties, at least accepted ones, right? And that's the key element here if a penalty is declined. So I'm going under on the penalties here at 10.5. Again, you can get that for plus 105. If I like field goals here, I like this game to go under. I think both teams can move the ball. I'm going to go over 3.5 field goals plus 135. Here's a wacky one. Most punts. Do you ever think about most punts when it comes to the big game? I like the Rams to have the most punts, right? So if I think the Rams take a lead and they do the thing where they're going to have to play conservatively in the second half, because that's what Sean McVay loves to do, I think Bengals drives in the second half end in turnover on downs, or scores because they're playing comeback. The Rams with a lead, they're going to be happy, content with punting. They're, obviously, that's an upgrade on all the fumbles that they had against Tampa Bay, right? And again, if I think this game plays out the way it did against Arizona, I think the Rams in victory actually have more punts, and you're getting a plus 110 price on that because you just go, okay, most punts probably should be the underdog to have most punts. I don't think that's how this game plays out, so I'm going most punts there. One of my best rusher sort of prop here, Mixon under 14.5 long rush. And then we have inferred to this about the Rams' ability to not give up big runs. Basically, since the bye week, the Rams' rush defense has given up just 2 long rushes of 13 or more yards. And that's through 180 opponent carries. Well, you do some quick math right there, right? And that's about 1%. They give up a long rush on 1% of opponents' carries. Mixon, on the other hand, he's been decent, right? But a lot of his literal volume is on volume. It's not on chunk yardage. In fact, he has rushed for a long rush 4% of the time. Well, let's split the difference and let's call it 2.5%, right? That Mixon should be expected to have a long rush in this game, in this matchup, 2.5% of the time. Well, you do some quick math here, and that means that you need 40 carries for Mixon for you to expect him to have a long rush, right? 2.5%, 40, you're going to have one long rush in 40 carries. Well, he's not getting 40 carries. So if he gets 20 carries, if he gets half that, well, what's the expectation for Mixon to get a long rush? Well, 50%, right? Well, he's lined right now at 16.5 rush attempts. So if he gets 16, or if he gets 17, or if he gets 18, basically anything less than 20 carries is 2.5% on your side here. So if he runs for 16, or if he runs for 17 carries, or even 18 carries, that's a 5% or better edge on a minus 110 bet. I know that's a lot of math and a lot of sort of theoretical stuff there, but just understand that if we think it's a 50-50 proposition that he gets a long rush when he has 20 carries, but the spread, the total carries that he's lined at, doesn't think he even gets to 20 carries. Yeah. Well, I rather just deal with him in a long rush situation. Yeah, he might have 20 carries, so I don't want to bet him to have under 16.5 carries, because I think honestly that number is a little bit low, 1 or 2 carries low. And I don't want to fade him because he's only at 62.5 rush yards. And he's the type of quality running back who could have 17 carries for 4 yards a carry. You do some quick math and that's 68 yards, but it's just not going to be an explosive carry because that's not what the Rams give up defensively. So I like that. Under 14.5, even under 13.5, you can get there. Some spicy ones. First sack, Greg Gaines. Do you know Greg Gaines? Not many people do. He is the unsung guy on that defensive front for the Rams. So Aaron Donald's getting all the attention. Floyd Miller getting all the attention. Greg Gaines has 4.5 sacks this season. He is 12-1 to get the first sack of this game. Interception. This isn't a real elaborate handicap on this one, right, Shal? You ready for this? There are 4 defensive backs for Cincinnati that play 100% of the snaps. Matt Stafford throws the ball deep. As we said, like his best strategy, probably not to throw the ball deep, but he does it. And he gets intercepted. So in theory, each one of those guys has an equal chance of intercepting Matt Stafford. Von Bell has the highest odds at 8-1. The other guys are 6-1. Your Eli Apples of the world. Von Bell, 8-1 to have an interception. That is just basically taking whoever has the biggest odds. I'm going to take that person because I think each guy has as likely of a chance to, obviously intercept Matthew Stafford. Couple quick ones here. Joe Burrow, first pass incomplete or intercepted at plus 160. Again, conservative offense from the Bengals. Maybe, they have to, the first pass comes on third down because they've run with Mixon on the first two plays. That's something that infuriates people about Zach Taylor and his offense. A Cooper Kupp rushing attempt, plus 182 for Cooper Kupp to have an end around type of a situation. I think that's probably likely to happen. If you want to put a little hedge, you could go Rams rushers under 4. That's available at even money in a place that's rhymes with Schminical. You can grab them. You only lose on 5 rushers. Even if you have Kupp, the 2 running backs for the Rams, and Stafford. And by the way, there's no guarantee that Stafford even has a rush, although he has been sort of relatively prominent on quarterback sneaks. That's still just a push. I don't know how you get to 5 there in that case. Bengals receivers under 6.5 receivers to have a catch, right? We have the big 3 on the Bengals. Then you have P. Ryan, who we think is going to have a catch. It looks like Uzoma is going to play. That's 5. And maybe Mixon, that's 6. Like, who's the 7th guy that's going to jam you up there? I don't know. And then finally, 3 straight scores. Everybody loves the not to have a 3 straight score. I think there will be 3 straight scores from a team here. I think that team's going to be the Rams. And you can get that at minus 195. The key there is under 200, under minus 200, if you can find it, for any team to have 3 straight scores.
Oof. That was a lot. There's so much going on, but I know you got one more big one for us here. Why don't you just wrap us up with I want to say a little surprise for us.
Yeah, and this is not something that we do because it is a borderline predatory in the industry, but it's the Super Bowl and we have to go for one big score. And we can't be relying on Tyler Higbee at 14-1 to catch the first pass for that big score. So maybe you got a free bonus. Maybe you got something out there that's like free money from a sports book trying to get you to bet with them. And maybe they offer you the legendary same game parlay. Yeah. So we're going to take a free bet here, whether it's $5, $10, $20, and we are going to go for broke in this case. I'm calling this the SoCal Breeze. I've named the same game parlay here, Shell. The SoCal Breeze is under the understanding that the Rams win this game relatively comfortably, and all of the sort of elements, the ingredients to the recipe of a Rams comfortable victory. And of course, that starts with our alt spread minus 9.5. That gets us going early on here. We're going to buy a couple points on the total, and we're going to go under 52.5. Right. So that's our game. The idea of this game is a 30-20 game that we mentioned. Maybe it's 27-17, something along those lines. Okay, well, why are the Bengals going to get blown out? Well, we talked about Jamar Chase, right? He's unable to get deep. He's unable to break a big pass reception under 78.5. We talked about Higgins over 5.5. He's going to be getting the sort of big body, short yardage, passes over the middle, that sort of thing. P. Ryan, I just love that prop over 8.5. That doesn't, if the Bengals are playing from behind, there are probably going to be some outlet throws to P. Ryan. Burrow over 36.5, which I mentioned why I like volume there. At 273.5 for his pass yards, let's attach that to the mix, right? Again, if he's going to have to throw the ball, he might as well get over in that situation. Again, if Stafford is playing comfortably, means 2 things. One, he doesn't have to have a ton of pass attempts. Let's go under 35.5 pass attempts for him. Let's go under 5.5 rushing yards. 2 elements here. One, if he's comfortable back there doing a lot of play action passing, he's not going to have to scramble. His mobility isn't what it used to be. He's not a young buck anymore. And by the way, he spent the entire season basically banged up. So I'm not going to expect him to scramble. If he does, if they win the game, we might be looking at a Patrick Mahomes from a couple of years ago situation where he actually is over for the entire game, and the kneel downs at the end might pull him back under 5.5. So again, if we think the Rams win comfortably, it will be a kneel down situation for Stafford. And then on top of that, just to throw a little cherry on top to make this, wait for it, Shell, 350-1. Cooper Kupp to score a touchdown as the cherry on top to just juice it up a little bit more. I think he gets into the end zone. Obviously, the market thinks that he gets into the end zone. So quick recap for the SoCal Breeze. Rams minus 9.5, under 52.5 for the game total. T. Higgins over 5.5. Jamar Chase under 78.5 receiving yards. Smudge AP Ryan over 8.5 receiving yards. Joe Burrow over 36.5 attempts. Joe Burrow over 273.5 passing yards. Matthew Stafford under 35.5 attempts. Matthew Stafford under 5.5 rushing yards. And Cooper Kupp with a cherry on top with the touchdown and a partridge in a pear tree, a 10 outcome single game parlay. The SoCal Breeze.
Wow. That is an exceptional way for us to wrap up this pod, because that is what we call greatness. I love it. I'm inspired.